Well, I have some silver that I'm holding in my hand as we speak. Yes, I know about the movement. I hope they drive silver to 1,000, because I certainly own plenty of silver. I think it's probably unlikely. It's very difficult to do something like that with a huge commodity like silver. But I mean, it can be done. The Hunt brothers certainly drove the price of silver up an enormous amount. It can be done, and it has been done.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is Jim Rogers, very successful investor, best-selling author, Guinness Book World Record holder, co-founder of Quantum Fund and also Source Fund Management, and the creator of Rogers International Commodity Index. Jim Rogers, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be here, Elijah. Nice to see you again.
Definitely. And also on the line today is our host, Dunnigan Kaiser, who has the first question for Jim.
Jim, it's a pleasure to have you on Liberty and Finance, and it's my first time to meet you and to be able to interview with you, so I'm honored. Thank you very much for coming on. One of the things I'd like us to focus on, if we could, at the start is the unsustainable debt. I remember back in college, and that was decades and decades ago, one of my math teachers was talking about the only thing that large computers wouldn't be able to handle very soon would be the national debt. So we've been talking about and worrying about and concerned about the national debt for decades. My former channel was called Reluctant Preppers because people wanted to be aware and prepared for whatever threats and risks might be coming their way so that we can prepare our families. Should we be concerned about the debt that seems to be increasing at a faster rate than we've ever seen before? Or is this something that we'll be still complaining about decades from now? Or have we missed that point and we don't have that luxury anymore and it's going to become very real much sooner than that?
Well, Dunnigan, I will tell you, it's a good time to be old in America because the old people are getting the benefits of all this madness, but the young people are going to have to pay for it. It is not a good time to be a young American. I have 2 teenage kids. The problems that they're going to inherit are going to be unbearable. Many countries have done this in history. They have all gone into decline and had problems, recurring problems for many years. I don't like saying it since I'm an American and my daughters are Americans, but facts are facts. 100 years ago, the UK was the richest, most powerful country in the world. There was no number 2. They set out on this path. 50 years later, they were bankrupt. Literally, the IMF had to fly into London airport and bail them out. So they went from being the single most richest and powerful country in the world to bankrupt in 50 years. I don't think I'm going to be around in 50 years to see all of this.
One of the things when we think about the debt that really concerns people is that our currency isn't backed by anything. It used to be backed by gold, but now it's not backed by anything. So the Fed can just print as much money as they want and we can go into as much debt as we want. But the thing is that then there's the devaluation of the currency. And you've talked a lot about how, the dollar objectively, if we look at an objective standpoint, is not a good place to be, but people see it as a safe haven. What is your outlook for the dollar going forward?
Well, I own U.S. dollars because when the next turmoil comes, when the next crisis comes, people will seek a safe haven. There are not many things left except the U.S. dollar. It's not a safe haven, but people think it is, so they will flee there. It will go up. It will get overpriced. I hope I'm smart enough to sell. It might even turn into a bubble, depending on how bad the crisis is. But Elijah, I don't see many more times in the future when the U.S. dollar can have a period of great strength because the debt is so staggering And in Washington, they're increasing the debt at unbelievable rates. It's never been done in the history of the world, not in recorded history of the world anyway. And this cannot end well. It's never ended well for anybody else, and it cannot end well for us.
Jim, you mentioned the bubble that might happen in the currency itself, but there are those saying we're in the bubble of everything. The equities are in a bubble, and debts are in a bubble, and real estate's in a bubble. Now people are starting to talk about the growing commodities that are finally coming out of a doldrums. What are your views of the most egregious bubbles that exist right now and that people might not be aware of? And is it too late for people to find safety to jump off of that? Or is there still more growth ahead? And how safe are people who are investing their nest egg, their futures on the existing bubble of everything?
Well, the bond market worldwide is a gigantic bubble. Bonds have never been this expensive in the history of the world, anywhere in the world. So we've never seen anything like this bubble. So that's bubble number one, and perhaps the biggest. Property in many places, as you point out. Seoul, New Zealand, many places, property is in a bubble, not everywhere, but we're certainly having property bubbles develop. Shares are developing bubbles, not all shares. In America, things like Amazon go up every day, Google, and it's 10 cents. In Asia, Samsung, these stocks go up every day, but many stocks around the world are not in bubbles yet, but I can see it forming. I can see all the signs. The only thing I can see that's not a bubble, the cheapest asset class, commodities. Silver's down 50% from its all-time high. Oil is down 50%. Sugar's down 70%. Some of the prices in these commodities historically are remarkable, if not unbelievable. So the only thing I can see where there's not a bubble is commodities. Some things are starting to go up. Copper's now made an all-time high, but we're told we're all going to have electric vehicles in the future. Well, electric vehicles use several times as much copper as a regular car. So I don't know if that's a bubble. If the reality is the huge demand, then I don't see how you can call copper a bubble, given that production is not going up.
If I could just tag a follow-up question to tie two things you've said in your last two sections together. When you talked about the increase of the debt and the risks towards the dollar and other fiat currencies, but now you're talking about how commodities are a relative value given that they have not, most of them haven't reached their former all-time highs. We're talking about nominal highs there. So could you help make clear to our viewers and to me that when we talk about like silver being half its all-time high or that sort of thing, that we're talking about devalued currency. So isn't the picture even a lot more extreme than how you painted it?
Well, that's a valid point. The all-time high on silver was about $50 an ounce. It's about 25, 26 US an ounce. But when silver made its old highs, the dollar was worth a whole lot more than it is now. So who knows, on an adjusted basis, the old high in silver, I don't know, 60, 80, I don't know, I have no idea. But no, there's no question. So adjusted for what's happened to the currencies, most commodities are even cheaper than just the nominal value.
And yeah, you mentioned the undervaluation of commodities we're seeing right now, especially you mentioned silver being 50% of its all-time high, which is pretty crazy when it comes to, commodities in general. Now, specifically with silver, it seems like something that a lot of people have missed for many years. Some people have been interested in silver, but most of the population hasn't. But recently we've been seeing this movement to buy physical silver. It's called the silver squeeze. And also there's this group online called Wall Street Silver that is largely behind this move. What is your perspective on this movement, the silver squeeze, and really a lot of young people getting into the silver market, desiring to buy something that you can hold in your hand, actually have wealth outside the system?
Well, I have some silver that I'm holding in my hand as we speak. Yes, I do have some in the closet and under the bed. I'm an old peasant. When things go bad, I want to own some silver and some gold in the closet. Now, the politicians and the academics say, nah, silver and gold are worthless. Don't bother. Well, all of us old peasants know that when things collapse, we better have some gold and silver under the bed. So I have some, and I will buy more sometime in the future. I have no idea when. I know about the movement. I hope they drive silver to 1,000, because I certainly own plenty of silver. I think it's probably unlikely. It's very difficult to do something like that with a huge commodity like silver, but I mean, it can be done. The Hunt brothers certainly drove the price of silver up an enormous amount. It can be done, and it has been done. If they do it, more power to them. If it gets too high, I'll have to sell. I don't want to sell my silver. I want it for my children, but I'm aware of it. Squeezing the price of silver, which is a huge international commodity, will be difficult, but more power to it. The Hunt brothers did it.